They tried to gang up on me with 3 players because I cooked their whole squad, and I had to let their bench know after I hit that 3-pointer to shut their asses up. I just want to say that Marina Mabre is a bum, and I own her. She shoved me like that was going to change the score. She was out there putting up Angel Reese stats with her 6 points and 8 me-bounds. She needs to relax.
What's happening in the WNBA right now goes beyond technical fouls and finds it's about something deeper, a cultural rift tearing through locker rooms, fan bases, and the league's very identity behind the scenes. Multiple sources have hinted that players are split into factions. On one side, those who feel the league is bending too far to accommodate Caitlin Clark. They argue that she gets the media love, the jersey sales, the endorsements, and now preferential treatment from the refs. On the other side, players who see her as a target, someone who's been left alone and exposed, and believe the league is doing nowhere near enough to keep her safe. This divide has become a silent storm. Players won't say it outright on camera.
What are your thoughts? I don't think we've asked you this about the WNBA as a whole, the moment they're having right now, and Caitlin, and kind of this new era, seemingly, of women's basketball.
But off the record, the jealousy, resentment, and fatigue are real, and Jacy Sheldon, she became the flashpoint. Let's step inside Sheldon's mindset for a moment. Here's a rookie grinding for minutes, trying to prove herself in a league that doesn't always give second chances. She watches Caitlin Clark step into the league with the spotlight so bright it could blind everyone around her. To Sheldon, every foul, every hard defensive stop is a statement. I belong here. To so when the cameras caught her slamming her water bottle and refusing interviews after her fine, it wasn't just rage, it was heartbreak, disillusionment, maybe even fear.
I love it. I love competitiveness. I think it's great for the game. I think when people watch basketball and they think of basketball being physical, being competitive, being a little chippy, they think about us. But I think W is just as competitive and maybe even more chippy. You know what I mean?
That she'd now be branded forever not as a baller, not as a competitor, but as the villain. Who went too far? Her words reportedly echoed through the tunnel. This is a joke. They're throwing me under the bus. She knew she wasn't just being punished, she was being sacrificed. But if Sheldon felt the pressure, imagine what it's like being Caitlin Clark. She came into the WNBA as a once-in-a-generation talent, NCAA scoring record, shattered millions tuning into her final for run, fan bases bigger than most WNBA teams had ever seen. From day one, she wasn't just a player. She was a business. She couldn't fade into the background like most rookies. She was on every magazine cover, every news segment, every promo, ESPN, Nike, Gatorade. Everyone wanted a piece. But here's the problem the spotlight doesn't come with armor. It comes with a target on your back. Clark's numbers are impressive, but her bruises tell the real story. She's taken more flagrant fouls than any other player in the league. Over 17% of all flagrant fouls this season have been committed against her. Let that sink in. This isn't just physical, it's psychological warfare. And Clark, she's had enough. Clark's team, the Indiana Fever, have seen it building game after game. Their star gets hammered, and still the league shrugs. Still, the refs missed the calls. So when Marina Mabre came flying in to shove Clark to the floor, the Fever didn't just react, they exploded. Sophie Cunningham launched a retaliatory hit on Sheldon. Teammates swarmed the court, coaches screamed until their throats gave out. It was no longer about strategy or defense, it was a message: we will protect her even if the league won't. And in that moment, the entire energy around the Fever shifted. They weren't just a team anymore, they were a unit under siege, a band of sisters drawing a line in the sand. You touch Caitlin, you answer. To all of us, let's take a breath here. What other professional league would allow its most marketable player, the one bringing in 265% of total revenue, to be physically targeted this often? The NFL would have suspended someone for a season. The NBA would have issued a statement within hours. NHL, you'd be ejected and fined in seconds. But the WNBA, they sent Jacy Sheldon a bill for $2,000 and called it a day. If that's not a slap slap in the face to fans. I don't know what is soon the brawl, and its aftermath made headlines everywhere. TikTok x YouTube ball flooded with clips of Clark's "I poke Mabry's" shove and Cunningham's retaliation. Late night hosts joked about it. SportsCenter replayed it. Even Jimmy Fallon asked, "Is this the WNBA or WrestleMania?" But it wasn't funny because underneath the memes and punchlines was a league on the brink of a PR disaster. Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Paul George, Big N, a name spoke out. And they weren't subtle. "You've got to protect your stars," Garnett said. "If that was Steph Curry getting poked in the eye, it would have been a whole different story," and he's right. The double standard is obvious and fans are watching it unfold in real time. Back in the locker rooms, the silence said it all. Teammates sat in stunned silence. Some players avoided eye contact, others refused to talk to reporters. There was no unity, only.
As you guys can see here, Jacy Sheldon is guarding Caitlin Clark. She swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlin Clark nudges her off because
Fractures players who once called each other sisters now avoided each other in the tunnel. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Jacy Sheldon felt betrayed. Caitlin Clark felt exposed. Sophie Cunningham felt enraged. The glue that once held the team culture together had turned brittle and it was beginning to crack. And the scariest part, this wasn't unique to Indiana or Connecticut. It was happening across the league. Sophie Cunningham didn't ask for this role. She didn't volunteer to be the enforcer, but when no one else stood up for Caitlin, she did. Cunningham's foul on Sheldon wasn't just a retaliation, it was a declaration, a message to every team, every ref, every media outlet: we're done playing nice. She didn't care about fines, she didn't care about the ejection, she cared about one thing: sending a warning. And now every player in the league knows the Fever won't be bullied, not anymore. At this point, the WNBA isn't just facing a PR crisis, it's staring down an existential one. Sponsors are nervous, fans are furious, and the league's leadership silent. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert hasn't made a public statement, referees haven't explained their decisions, and the disciplinary actions inconsistent at best. Fans are starting petitions calling for stricter penalties, demanding that fines be scaled to player salaries. Some even want automatic ejections for any hit to the head, because what's happening now, it's not sustainable. And if Clark gets injured again or walks away entirely, the WNBA could lose more than just a player, it could lose its future. She didn't wait for permission, she didn't ask for a press conference, she just acted when Sophie Cunningham threw that retaliatory foul in the final minute of the game. Wasn't random, it was calculated, it was controlled rage. It sent a message that echoed far beyond the court. Sophie had seen enough. She had seen her teammate Claude. She had watched the league fail to respond. She had heard the silence from the front office, the way they talked around Clark's name, but never about her pain. So she stood up, not just for Caitlin, but for every teammate too afraid to say what they were thinking. And in that moment, she became more than just a player. She became a protector. This is the moment every great team faces, that line in the sand, the point of no return, where you decide whether you're just a group of individuals chasing a trophy or a true unit willing to bleed for each other. Sophie Cunningham didn't care about optics. She didn't care about being labeled a goon or a bully. She cared about making sure her teammate wasn't hunted anymore. That's loyalty, that's family, and ironically, that's what the league itself forgot. You protect what matters most. After the incident, something unexpected happened, a shift in narrative. While the initial headlines screamed brawl and chaos, a new wave of commentary started focusing on what really mattered, why it happened. More analysts began defending Cunningham's actions. Some said it was the most passionate moment of the season, others praised her leadership. If the league won't defend its stars, the players have no choice. One analyst declared Clark herself didn't condemn Sophie's foul. In fact, when asked about it post-game, she simply said, "Sophie had my back, that's what teammates do." It was subtle but powerful, because that one sentence said what the league wouldn't. Meanwhile, Jacy Sheldon's world was crumbling. Sponsors backed off, fans swarmed her social feeds with vitriol. Media outlets labeled her a dirty player, in her own team reportedly benched her longer than the suspension required, hoping to let the noise die down. But it didn't. One one moment, one foul, and she became a symbol not of grit, not of defense, but of unchecked aggression and league hypocrisy. And here's the hardest part: she might never shake it, because in a league this small, your reputation is everything, and Sheldon's it now precedes her. She's not just the girl who played tough defense, she's the one who poked Clark in the eye, and that story has a long memory. So now we ask, where does the WNBA go from here? Does it bury its head and ride the wave of controversy for clout, or does it finally take responsibility for the environment it's created? Because this isn't about one game, that's not even about one player, it's about the future of a league walking a tightrope between relevance and collapse. Protecting Caitlin Clark isn't just good PR, it's survival. The fans demanding better officiating. They're not angry because they hate the game, they're angry because they love it and they're watching it implode from the inside out. Amid all the chaos, Clark said almost nothing: no rants, no interviews slamming the league, no tweets, no passive-aggressive subtweets. She just showed up to practice, took her hits, played her game, but that silence, it was louder than anything she could have said. It told fans, I see what's happening and I'm enduring it anyway. That stoicism, that ability to absorb chaos and still deliver is part of what makes her great. It's what fans respect, it's what brands adore, but it's also what makes her vulnerable, because resilience shouldn't be mistaken for invincibility, and the longer she plays unprotected, the closer the league edges toward disaster. In the next press availability, Sophie Cunningham finally addressed the incident. She didn't apologize, she didn't deflect, she said 3 words: "We're done watching." That clip went viral instantly. It wasn't just a player speaking. It was a call to arms, a warning to the league, a promise to her team, a declaration to the fans. No more standing by. No more letting the system chew up its brightest star. No more silence. Let's call this what it is. This isn't a Caitlin Clark problem. It's a leadership problem. It's a safety problem. It's a respect problem. And if the WNBA doesn't face it now, it'll be facing something worse later: irrelevance, because you can't sell a league where your stars are sacrificed for entertainment. This isn't a circus. This is a sport, and it's time they remembered that. The next Indiana versus Connecticut rematch, already being called the most anticipated game of the year, not because of standings, not because of playoff implications, but because everyone's waiting to see if this time it finally explodes. Coaches are watching, players are tightening their laces, referees are on high alert, the cameras already booked. National networks cleared the schedule, because what was once just a WNBA regular season has now become a national spectacle. And that's a blessing and a curse, because the whole world is watching and there's no room left for failure. Here's the truth: the WNBA has built a golden bridge on the back of Caitlin Clark, one that leads to higher revenue, bigger sponsors, and new generations of fans. But every hit she takes, every bruise, every missed call, it chips away at that bridge, and the moment it breaks, so does everything they've built. Because once a star like Caitlin decides it's not worth it anymore, once she stops showing up, the league doesn't just lose a player. It loses its heartbeat. So here's where we are: one foul set off a firestorm, one game exposed a league-wide failure, one player became a symbol, one teammate became a warrior, and one league is standing on a knife's edge. Will they fix it before it's too late, or will they wait until the damage is done? Drop your thoughts below, because we're not just fans watching a game anymore, we're witnesses to a turning point in sports history. If you believe players deserve protection, if you believe talent deserves respect, if you believe the WNBA needs to act now, then like, comment, and subscribe. And don't miss our next breakdown on the growing player revolt across the league and what it means for the future of women's basketball, because this story, it's far from over.